And so far as that is concerned, there seems to be a basic sort of a similarity between science and Buddhism.
Today, by this and then, be sure now,
so because of this basic outlook, we find that Buddhism makes distinctions between two categories of Buddha's teachings. One category which can be accepted at their face value and can be perceived as definitive, literal, and then there is a second category of Buddha's teachings which cannot be taken literally and at their face value, but requires further interpretation. So these are categories of scriptures where if you take these scriptures at their face value and accept them literally, they contradict reality, they contradict valid experience and reason, and therefore they need to be further interpreted. And even after such interpretive approach, if they still don't conform to valid experience and reason, then the only alternative left is to reject them. And that much liberty has been given to the Buddhists.
Emotion and reason and Bena Taba Chashana, Chidabana Tabalea, and a Yiji Taba, Tana Taba, Mundu Taba Seni, it is here. The Negabanata Taba, the Dagana Sing and Ninji, Desutadi, Page, emotions of the Chatiari. That did on a some Jonda Chixiari. In it, indeed, Yonya Talea, any emotion knowledge, Gumzen, Dembelcone, getting emotion chicta, Gumzen Mabakora, Chig. Luvuliata, Penachik Sugu and a Pungum Gizig Nada in Dado, but when you've been a Pajana in Dado, Cora Jumze, Kunje, Jumze came meeting hot college, Sonan Tabu Yodavici, then a chardan to the test in the Yonde Yari. The Danushana. In the Yonde in the Sane, the Zurich emotion Chigda, but not Chamba the Ninja Sidarich, Jumze, Chavacheni, but that Chambe Pen, Dagana Shingi. The dog jog, but no Shedang Nimi, the next sound down, Jumzen Mango Jabacheva Gone, any answer pay, Jabacheva, Jadogi, some of the never chimbe, one key getting emotion chick. Yabrastua. So today we do Sane, Tao di Chinese log, Nuvetene, any Drogachi inside.
So talking about the actual process of training one's mind and bringing about that discipline that we have been talking about, I feel that there are two principal approaches or two principal strands or elements in the process or in the training. One which I could say that primarily deals with intuition or emotion, using the word emotion in a rather broad sense, and the other using mainly the intellect or thoughts. Within the emotion, for example, one could say that there are two principal types, such as faith, devotion, love, compassion, and tolerance. These can be called emotions. And there is another type of emotions which are more instinctual, which are more, in some sense, impulsive. We can attribute to their instinctual nature, to their physiological conditions, or we can attribute their sort of nature to karmic imprints from the past lives and so on. In any case, there are certain types of emotion which are instinctual and more impulsive, such as, and they also tend to be rather intense when they occur in our thought or in our mind, such as attachment, hatred, anger, and jealousy. So these are very strong, forceful emotions which arise quite instinctually, without necessarily any rational thinking. And many of these emotions tend to be quite afflictive. They afflict our mind. Then, whereas there is another category of emotions which, as I spoke earlier, such as faith, love, compassion, and so on, which in some sense could be called reasoned emotion. The more you think about them, the more you think about their value, their basis, and so on, the greater you are able to enhance their capacity. And they, in some sense, they have a grounding in your valid experience. And these are types of emotions which needs to be cultivated, which needs to be developed, and which needs to be enhanced, which is an important or integral part of your training the mind.
So, Dinigalalia, any sim, Kang Pugeta, some Tonya, turned the Gania, but the sim Jessica Naji, Chua in the teacher, top shame we have in the Zane, any sim Jessica, she needs a daddy, casual cherry. That any sim Jessica, she negi, torch any detail, Miguel Pugeta, Chavachiagi, and a Handon Sedadi, you are. What I should hand you would be, any Kandas some of Sojagi, that never be shook chishudi. 가다 쌤 코랑게 땡네 가다 또 누가 차상지 땡토고 구여봐 이러잖아 이노 시내다 항동세 대야 디기타네 애니 쌤그 누가로 차상지 강 급수 법에 미국 가인네 어떤 미국 디간이야 애니 거기 쌤그 누가로 용자로 디트야지 동야 된다네 애니 신랑이 어디 용되기도 봐.
So in both of these approaches, the intuitive or the emotional, the intuitive emotional approach, where the primary concern is to develop and enhance your love, compassion, and so on. And then also the training of mind, which primarily employs more rational thinking and the intellect. In both of these cases, what is important is to have a stable basis of mind. In other words, a stability of the mind. Therefore, it becomes extremely important to cultivate single-pointedness of the mind as a basic foundation. And once you have developed such a single-pointedness of the mind, when that faculty is conjoined with a powerful analysis, then one gains the ability to penetrate into the nature of reality, whatever object of meditation or your thinking you may take. Once you have this powerful analysis and single-pointedness at your disposal, then you are in a position to channel your entire energy, mental energy, towards the given object, so that you could really exert all the powers that are embedded within your mind towards a particular object. Through that way, then you are in a position to successfully develop your mind and bring about that discipline. Sorry, and therefore the combination in the Buddhist teachings, the combination or the union of single-pointedness of mind or tranquil abiding, shamatha, and penetrative insight or vipassana is very much emphasized. So this brief description of Buddhism that I've given you just now is a picture of the basic mode of procedure on the Buddhist path.
Dama, Chitaro Machenway, that Jim Rudan Ditane, that Chitaro, that Turdu, Ben Miu, the Gulungi Caberlet, and Chitaro Chenway, any Bena Benaji, Chilu Jixavina, and then Yendo Yeteva, Ran Sanjay Teva, Chichanjus and the Tevas, Tevasum Shacho. Diane, Yamban Chilu Jigtane, and a Givu Chung, Givu Jing, Givu Chambus.
So with this this mode of procedure, which is common to the entire Buddhist path, And then, depending upon
Raining. Is it raining?
Depending upon your motivation, and depending upon the type of your motivation, your ultimate objectives, and so on, then in the Buddhist teachings we find divisions into certain different yanas or vehicles. From one point of view, one could divide the Buddhist teachings into 3 yanas: the Sravaka yana, and the Buddhist Pratyaga Buddha yana, the solitary realizers yana, and the Bodhisattva yana. Or one could also divide the entire Buddhist path in terms of the practices of the three scopes: initial, the middling, and the great capacities.
Da ne bana rimbaru ji ni bana gibu chung ji chesu ji xia bei na dan nian le da dan ji jia te du ji be san ji ji guo wang tong de nian ji xie da ya bana nie li zam tong de nian ji xie da de ne chima ngon du zam tong de nian ji xie da chen di zam tong de nian de ji xie ni rixi yu duo
Generally speaking, if we were to look at the types of people who embark upon a spiritual path, we could see that there are 4 principal types of people. One who seeks as his or her ultimate goal the attainment of full enlightenment or the Buddhahood. Then there are others whose main priority is to gain liberation from samsara, freedom from the samsaric bondage. And then there is a third category of people whose primary concern is to have a more positive or wholesome rebirth. Then there is a fourth type of category, a fourth type of people whose primary concern has nothing to do with future life, but rather seeking a more sort of happy and wholesome future within this lifetime.
다다 지금 아주대 망체 아니 다 천디 다 냐라 치치마 개천부리 되냐라 천디 기부 중나선 용되게 다 망고 여러 번 가도.
So many of us So many of us may have a kind of a basic feeling somewhere deep down that although the fate of the future life is very important, what happens in the future life, liberation, nirvana, and so forth, they may be very important. But what is more important is the reality of the present life, what is going to happen in this life. And most of our motivations, most of our thoughts and actions are in some sense motivated by trying to better our life in this single lifetime. And I'm sure this is a very valid sentiment, very valid attitude. What is true is that if we are, through our efforts, able to live a happy, peaceful, and joyful and wholesome life in our present life, then of course this will definitely contribute towards the betterment of our future life. On the other hand, if we always talk about future life, next life, what is going to happen, and so on, make all sorts of preparations without really taking care of the present existence, and then live a rather unwholesome, unhappy, and unproductive life, then this, let alone benefiting the future life, one's own present life would be rather miserable and unfulfilled.
Yeah. 전에다 가다 개치 전에 이번 인도 자네 가서 채침을 핑계라 천 딜레 다 가다시 판도 치슈디 가서 사무도 구양구체 천도지 디도 좀보다 선을 펑벅 쳐버디 맞아버체
So, what I personally feel is the most important thing is that, of course, these will contribute towards the betterment of our next life, but what is important is to try to develop an outlook on life which is more, which is broader in its perspective, which has the capacity to see things in its wider context, so that you are not overly sensitive to situations, events, and so on. And also, what is very important is to try to enhance your capacity for love, compassion, and tolerance, so that you could be at least a better person, a warmer person.
That's enough. Can do that in shoot dash on. All transmission.
Shall I end the teachings now that it's raining? So I'll give some oral transmissions. And
Really? Oh. Oh, that? No. Only a chance was Chabati Channel actually, because my shabby in the chance of the Trajil Yauchilang to dissolve it. That's it. Casore. Maboya the Yaucha.
So do try to protect yourself. If the rain stops, that's fine, but otherwise, do try to protect yourself.
That's any. You know, according to my own experience, I think the most important factor, even in our daily life, the more open-minded, more open-minded is something very, very helpful. Now, in order to have more open-minded, now open-minded means, of course, you must have sensitivity. At the same time, not too seriously sensitive. So for that, the open-minded is something. So you see, in order to develop that kind of attitude, the main factor is good heart. This I can say definitely. The more your mental attitude, the more compassionate, more affectionate attitude. You see, concern is thinking more about others is the right, just like myself, and concern more about the common people's welfare, so well-beings, these things. Then it automatically, usually I call, it automatically open our inner door. As a result, we can communicate with other fellow human beings much more easily. More open, more open, right, the inner door, the less fear, more self-confidence, and feel when you find easy communicate with other fellow human beings, then you get some kind of a feeling, oh, we are genuine community. I am the member of it's a happy community, that kind of a feeling. So that automatically, one way reduce fear and reduce some kind of self-doubt. And also reduce sometimes you say, sometimes we, you say to something, oh, I have no value, that kind of, I am just so hopeless, that kind of feeling will reduce. So therefore, I think one of the technique in order to more open-minded, in order to have more openness of mind, is the key thing is the compassionate mental attitude. That's no doubt. So I always telling people, whether believer or non-believer, let us try to have some the more has a positive the mental state, that means the more altruistic mental attitude. So for that, if we think the today's the modern the structure way, including economy or everything, there is plenty of reasons to
given the extremely complex nature of our modern existence in this modern world, I'm sure if one pays enough attention, one will find so many grounds which would compel us to think more about the need for altruistic outlook on life and thinking more about other people's well-being.
So that today by using the and the simji exchange. Niala by Namjin Tony, but a sample channel, Dachimbuchi between Towns again, Majunaya, Gadange, Miliaji, Pembe somebody, that shall be Pembe somebody, that name Munera, that social bit, Kanichin, that gigging in Sambaro, that didn't some Lutane, any other today, did not some temple.
So, since we are going to conduct a ceremony of generating the mind for enlightenment or bodhicitta, I felt that regardless of whether we are able to actually develop a true aspiration for attainment of full enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, what would be most important is to develop the resolve that and determination that today at this place, on this occasion, I will make a pledge to enhance my capacity for warm-heartedness, and I will develop a genuinely altruistic mind, aspiring to help other sentient beings.
Dalai mi samlu rochane, any garanzi, but Melamur number of Melamur, in the district Tane, Garanzo, common Tane, group Tane, any six some would better Kasure. He is the Tamjar Shani, to determine which each in young Pandaja.
And for this, sometimes because of our human nature, when we do participate in the ceremony in a sort of a communally, with along with many other fellow human beings, when we do the ceremony together by saying prayers or reciting verses and developing this strong wish to develop kind heart and good heart, then because of our human nature, sometimes it can be more effective than just doing on your own. So first we will do a short recitation.
Damba Jamden, the Shinshava, Rajamba, Yandava, Zabe, Sanje, Ripata, Shabson, Damba, Dawara Shava, Jiden, Jamba, Jibundu, Kalo, Jua, Lana, Meva, Menanje, Damba, Sanje, Beja, Shaja, Tobala, Chazalo, Shudo, Jibso, Shu, Damba Jamden, the Shinshava, Rajamba, Yandava, Zabe, Sanje, Ripata, Shabson, Damba, Jiden, Jamba, Jibundu, Kalo, Lana, Meva, Lana, Menanje, Damba, Sanje, Jamden, the Beja, Shaja, Tobala, Chazalo, Shudo, Jibso, Damba Jamden, the Shinshava. Rikwada Shabson Damba Dawara Shaban Jiden Jamba Jibundu Kalo Jua Lada Meva Lada Menanje Damba Sanje Jamden de Beja Shakya Sasan Lo Shudu Jibso She Kangze Kanyi So Jedanze Sajen Dela Komba Dumbo Nengane Jiden Dela Dese Gaba Jala Shasan Lo Namda Konga Shodu Susan Wa Yishi Jaso Seji Dumbo Kawa Jiden Suma Lange Wongumbo Choni Jala Jazalo Senja Damba Jimen Daveja Sanan Jawa Jala Duje Jada Seba Suma Shinyame Kinshin Jala Jazalo Gumbo Doje Jendamba Tamje Kembe Damba Bosana Yende Jazo Jindi Shala Jazalo Tabe Jada Ojo Keven Yazo Judo da Jojo was she could show Jazo, Dana, Lion, the Lava, the Lazo, the Shinga, the Boy, and the Kinder Lion, Jazo, the question, and Major Gavo. Dine Saja, the Boy, Kamara, Mame, the Jumozo, Jovo, the Melon, Lada, Jinda, the Jana, the Dada, Sanan, the Tanjas, Boy, Goma, Tommy, Genji, the Gana, Sive Salen, Draw, Yo, Sashi, Beji, Madonna, Rolling, the Jamon, Saja, Mede, Dogananda, Shana, Jo, Shana, Shembe, Dain, Simja, Taji, Calvasha, Savia, Shedin, Zaji, Juju, Yadon, Guru, Rana, Mandala, Nea, Daria, me. That's another mission of the no. 我是人家的车车的，马达针对某个些，但是针对某个些，你伢了说了个糖果的茶松去，对，是吧？但那茶你说了个你不吃，你说了个松不吃，都是这样的。
I believe a small sheet of paper has been distributed on which are 3 verses, and the recitation of these 3 verses is the actual ceremony of generating the bodhicitta. So today there won't be any repetitions after me, but rather you should recite these 3 verses in unison.
Sanje chu gindu subutale ya gyapsun roya tang di to ngondu gi taba cheni ene gyapsun roya tang da ngondu gi tabe di ngondu chao nyambe da lo di ngondu cha ge gaba jumden di shan la pandu du ya ge tanda sheni o di ta le ene gyapsun ru yin sen da di mbare.
I will briefly explain the meaning of these 3 verses. The first verse is a formula for taking refuge in the 3 jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So what you are doing here is by reciting this verse, you are mentally seeking refuge in the 3 jewels and developing a faith based on admiration and appreciation of the deeper qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and in some sense emulating their example and aspiring to attain their state. Just as they themselves have become fully enlightened, you also seek that state of enlightenment. And then you state the objective, the main purpose of doing so, which is to be of service to all the other sentient beings, that you are seeking the state of the Buddhahood.
Tadi ada yang di migor siapa ini? Tadi ini dunia si tambah saja sendiri. Ini dalam nasi kongge ini begitu saja tu, ini sih changju samba, ini sih Thai nampak jadi, Mi nampak jadi, Rutan Yue samba. Ini sih susu mebe kabar le, pada sih zambu di kange pada tambah, pada kabar je, pada Jesus Christ sorrow, sih Muhammad sorrow. Tapi kalau tu sudah ini kada tu zui begitu Yue samba cahaya na, ini sanje